Hey guys, in this video, I'm going to give you my best tips on how to take a test. In previous videos, I've given you study tips on how to study for a test and how to prepare for a test. How do you take a test? Here are my tips. Tip number one. Wear a watch or bring a watch with you to class. A lot of times your teachers aren't going to want you to set your cell phone down on your desk because the cell phone could have the answers to it. It has the internet after all, or could have a notepad. So bring a watch or make sure that there's a clock in the room that you can see. The last thing that you want to do is get in there and start taking a test, lose track of time, and then realize time is up and you haven't finished the test. It's a great way to pace yourself to bring a clock or a watch with you, or just make sure you can see the clock in the room if you're not able to bring a watch. Next, the morning of the test, you might want to take an Advil or take a Tylenol. Why would this be a good idea if you don't have a headache? Because it is a preventative measure. The last thing that you want to do is get in there and get stressed for that test, and you're taking the test and you get a headache. So maybe you take a Tylenol or Advil before you even go in to take the test. You don't have a headache yet, but you don't want them. It's kind of a preventative measure just to kind of keep your brain relaxed. And another thing to keep your brain relaxed is you might want to meditate a little bit before class. One thing that I do, even if you don't have time to meditate or you don't have the space to meditate, you probably do. Just close your eyes, take a deep breath. I like to breathe in through my nose and breathe out through my mouth. And that just relaxes me. Even when I'm driving to the test or riding to the test, breathing relaxes me. And if I have the ability to meditate, just clear my mind of everything and silence my mind, that is even better. The next thing that I want to tell you is go to the restroom before the test starts. I mean, you don't want to be sitting there taking the test and you're like, oh, I got to go to the bathroom. The teachers maybe doesn't want you to leave the room during the test because he or she might think you're trying to look up answers. You want to be relaxed. Go to the restroom. The next, it's best to stay a little bit cold during the test. So, and the theory behind that is if you are cold, you're going to be more alert. You're going to be more awake. If you're warm and you're comfortable, then there's more of a chance you might not be as alert. So try this. If the room is cold, don't put on a jacket. Stay cold. It'll keep you more alert. This next point is big. Focus on yourself. When I was my senior year of high school, there was 600 people in my class. And at the very beginning at the end of the first semester, they told us where our class ranking was. I was ranked 12th out of 635 students as far as my grades go. Let me say that again. I was ranked 12th out of 635 students. When I would take a test, I wasn't thinking about where everybody was ahead of me was ranked in the class and them. I was just focused on myself. So when I took that test, I wasn't worrying about anybody else. I was worrying about me, my test, and how good I was going to do. As soon as they gave me the rankings at the end of my senior year, guess what happened? I started thinking, oh, I wonder what she's doing. I wonder what he's doing. I wonder if he studied for the test. I wonder how he did. And when I graduated, I had fallen 20 places. I graduated 35 out of 635 students. That's still not bad. But what changed? Only one thing changed. I started worrying about everybody else and not just worrying about myself. I'll give you one more suggestion on this. When I trained for the USA Memory Championship in 2009, when I walked in that door that day, I didn't worry about how my competitors had trained. I only was concerned about my training because I knew if I lived up to what I was capable of, I would win. That morning of the USA Memory Championship, people were saying, how was your training? How was your training for this? And I would answer them, but I never asked them, how was your training? Because I didn't care. I was only focused on myself. That's a small point, it seems like, but it's actually a very big point. My next suggestion for you when taking a test is go with your gut. Answer with your gut. Your first instinct a lot of times is going to be right. The last thing that you want is to go with your gut and then you go back and rethink it and change your answer and your gut was right. Now, it is very important to after you take the test, to go back and read each question one more time, because maybe you were wrong, maybe you made a mistake, and rereading it and going through it slower will reveal that. But trust your gut. Now next, on the true-false type questions. When you're taking a true-false type question, read it very carefully. Every detail of the question must be true, or of the statement must be true in order for it to be true. In other words, negatives in there could change the entire meaning of the question. For example, if a statement says, "It is logical to think that Benjamin Franklin's many inventions led to his fame," that statement is true. But just changing one little aspect of that and making it a negative changes the whole thing. If you change logical from logical to illogical, the statement then becomes, "It is illogical to think that Benjamin Franklin's many inventions led to his fame." Well, no, it's not illogical. It's logical. So that statement is false. Do you see the importance of that there? One statement, by just taking the words logical and putting illogical in front of it, made the entire statement false. So when you're taking a true-false, remember that the entire thing has to be true for it to be true. Be very careful of negatives in words like no and not, and words like all. In a chemistry test, there is a section of the periodic table of elements called noble gases. If the statement says some of these are noble gases, neon, argon, helium, and carbon, well, that's true. Carbon is not a noble gas, but that statement is still true because the word some of them are noble gases. If that sentence said all of these are noble gases, helium, neon, argon, and carbon, well, that statement becomes false because all of them are not noble gases. So what I'm saying with you on this is this. For a true-false statement, all of them have to be true for it to be true. And my last point on true-false statements, if you're just stuck and you just don't know, select true. You have a little bit more than a 50% chance that it's going to be true because teachers and professors often want you to know what is true and what is. So there is a tendency to make more of the statements true than false. Not a lot, but by a small margin, you have a little bit of an advantage if you were guessing. On a multiple choice test where it's A, B, C, or D, this is what I like to do. I like to put my hand over the answers, the multiple choice, so I can't see them. And then I read the question, and then I answer the question without looking at the answers. And if I take my hand away and the answer is right there, I feel pretty confident that that is the right answer because my brain fed it without seeing any of the options. That's personally like how I like to do it. When you're studying for a test, focus on key words in the question. You know, if you're studying something in a biology class and it's talking about the cell wall and the cells, look for key words that relate to the cells or the biology of a plant or whatever, but look for the main key words. And then when you're taking the test, those key words can be brain triggers for you to give the answers. In other words, you're not going to want to memorize every word in your biology book, but just focus in on the key words and look for those key words when you're taking a test. Here's one thing that I like to do. When I am taking a vocabulary test, I like to take the word and then in the definition, I like to find key words. The word neophyte means beginner. So the neophyte, the definition could be a person who is a neophyte is a beginner at something. But I just simplify that definition to neophyte equals beginner. A neophyte is somebody who is new at something. Next, use the process of elimination. If you're studying for a multiple choice test and there's 4 or 5 options, and you read through them first of all, and you're like, oh, well, I know those two aren't the possible answer. Mark them off, cross them off, and then just focus on the 3. And then maybe you're reading those 3 and you're like, well, I know that one's not it. Now you at least, if you're guessing, at least you have a 50-50 chance. But cross off as many as you can and use the process of elimination. Here is a next tip, and this tip is to keep your brain relaxed. And in order to keep your brain relaxed, what I want you to do is take the test and answer all the questions that you know first and you know right away. But if you don't know a question, if you can't think of the answer, don't get stuck on it. Don't spend a lot of time. Oh my God, what's the answer to this? Don't do that. It's just going to stress you out. Instead, put a little star or a check mark to let yourself know that you've skipped it, and then go through and answer the next questions. Answer the questions that come easy for you, that you know right away. Then when you're done with the test, go back and look at all the starred or check marked questions. And by doing that, you're keeping your brain relaxed. Oh, I know that one. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, I know that. I don't know that one, so I'm going to start. Yeah, I know that. But if you spend too much time on a question that you don't know, you could stress yourself out. So the first reason you're going to want to do that is to stay relaxed. But here's another reason you want to do that. Sometimes when you're taking a test, if you don't know the answer to a question and you put a star mark by it and you continue taking the test, sometimes the answer to that question that you skipped is actually in another question. For example, so let's say that there's a question, and it is, who was the 17th president of the United States? And you're like, oh my gosh, I can't think of who's the 17th president of the United States. So you skip it. You put a little star mark by it. You don't stress out about it. You go on and you take the test, and later on in the test, a question says, the 16th president of the United States was Abraham Lincoln. He had two vice presidents, Hannibal Hamlin and Andrew Johnson, who became president when he was assassinated. And then it goes on to maybe say something else in that question, and it asks you a question. But guess what? That question just gave you the answer to the one above, because you know that Abraham Lincoln was the 16th president. You probably know he was assassinated. And so that tells you that his second vice president, Andrew Johnson, became the 17th president. Skip questions you don't know. Number one, to keep your brain relaxed. But number two, sometimes later in the test will actually give you the answer to a previous question. My next suggestion to you is take a little mini break. Now, the way I would like to do this is, number one, you could do it in the middle of the test. If you feel yourself getting anxious or anxiety, just turn the test over, sit there, close your eyes, and maybe practice your breathing exercises. Or you're done taking the test. Before you go turn it in, take a mini break. Close your eyes, take a break, and then turn it over and go back and double check all your answers. Taking little breaks there helps keep you relaxed. And finally, guys, I can't stress this enough. Go back and review your test, check the little things, and since you have a watch on or you're watching the clock in the room, pace yourself and finish at your own pace. Some people like to be one of the first people to hand in the test because they want everybody to know they knew all the answers. Who cares? Finish at your own pace. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter how quick you turned in your test. At the end of the day, it matters how well you did on the test. Who cares if you're the last one who turned in the test if you get the best grade? One of my friends, Brian McMahon, I went to high school with him. He would always be the last one to turn in the test. Why? Because he was sitting there going over and over and answering every question and taking it slow. But guess what? Brian often got the best grade in the class. He wasn't concerned with being the first one to turn it in. He was concerned with the end result, which is the grade. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, my test taking skills. If you like this, give me a thumbs up. Tell me down below which one you are going to start implementing right away, or tell me below if you're using some of these or strategies that you use that you want to share with the group on how you take a test. If you want to watch my video on how to prepare for a test, and you haven't seen that yet, click the link right here and you can watch my video on how to take a test. Go ahead, click it. Come on. What are you waiting for? Click it. Click that. Prepare for a test. Give me a like, give me a thumbs up. I'll see you on the next video. Subscribe. I love you guys.